Alright, this is the asynchronous lesson for September the 10th. Obviously, some of you have already done the assignment, which is the posting a comment and then responding to people in regards to their comments connected to that video I had you watch on the evolution of the United States Army uniforms. However, I wanted to go ahead and do this presentation as well and talk about it a little bit. So today we're going to look at American military traditions, uniform of the branches, and the history of the United States Army. Uniforms, United States Army through time. So we can see on the far side we have on one end the Revolutionary Army, and then on the other side we have Civil War, then Spanish-American War, then Civil War. So you've got all of the different uniforms giving you just kind of a depiction over time as to what they look like. Our current service uniform is what they call pinks and greens. They're not really pink. But the pants are khaki, and during World War II, when they were adopted, they were called pinks and greens, and the United States Army is moving back to that to connect to the greatest generation. The current Army service uniform, which is blue with a white shirt and light blue, dark blue jacket and light blue pants, is now going to be used as a dress uniform. Now, I put the United States Air Force in here because the United States Air Force started as the Army Air Corps. Now, they are now separate in their own branch, but they began as part of the Army. So, this gives you a couple of videos to watch. Click on each picture, and that will open up a link for you to the video that you're going to need to see. Alright, objectives. Expose cadets to a variety of uniforms from America's military past. Expose cadets to a variety of pieces of equipment from America's military past. Discuss the impact of these uniforms and equipment on the events of the past. Alright, so the American military uniform in the 1700s, you all should have seen this in what you were looking at. British wore red jackets, giving them the nickname of the Redcoats. Continental Army wore dark blue jackets. That was actually passed by the Continental Congress as the approved color. And then Minutemen militia, or the militia that was made up from different groups, they wore really kind of whatever clothing they had. American military uniforms of the Civil War. The Union uniforms are typically wool. Coats were dark blue. Pants were light blue. And interestingly enough, the shoes, called brogans, didn't have a right or left foot. So they gave you a set of these shoes, you put them on, and as you wore them, they wore into whichever foot it was that you had them on. So the right became the right, the left became the left. Relatively uncomfortable shoes. The soles were put on with wooden pegs. Spanish-American War. In this case, the uniforms consisted of both wool and cotton. It wasn't until this idea that this war that the idea of camouflage actually started coming into consideration. The blue uniforms you see here are wool. Khaki colored uniforms were actually made of cotton. And on both sets, the collars were different colors to identify the different branches. World War I, uniforms were made of wool. Boots were not common. What you're seeing here, folks, is the shoes. Those are actually shoes, and then the wrappings called gaiters or putins were actually wrapped around the boot or the shoe to seal it from stuff getting in it, and then wrapped up the leg to keep stuff from getting into the pants. During this period of time, almost all of the gear was canvas or leather. The helmets were steel. The standard issue rifle at that time was the Springfield 1903. World War II. Uniforms were made from wool. Most of the dress uniforms were made from wool, although some of the uniforms were made from cotton. Again, gear was either leather or canvas. Camouflage was specifically introduced into the Pacific Campaign by the Marine Corps when they were fighting against the Japanese. The uniform you see pictured here, it would be the uniform of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment. For those of you that are familiar with Band of Brothers, an Easy Company, this is the uniform that they would have worn. They were a parachute group, which is why they've got a parachute on. Interesting, that big bag that's attached to the leg was designed to hold their stuff, but they found that when the soldiers jumped out with it, it tended to rip off their leg. I mean, not rip off their leg, but it tore off the leg it was attached to, and so the bag would get lost with all their equipment, and they'd hit the ground wondering where in the heck their stuff was. So they ultimately ended up doing away with that and went with a drop bag instead. In Vietnam, the uniforms are typically olive drab, made of ripstop cotton nylon. There was a steel helmet. The load-bearing equipment was canvas. In this case, we think of them being camouflaged, and there was some camouflage utilized, but for the most part, the service members were wearing just a straight olive drab green uniform. In the 1980s, 1990s, the uniform was called a BDU, or battle dress uniform. It was woodland camouflage. This is the uniform that I joined under. So the first uniform I started out was just like that one. There were two different versions. There was a heavyweight cotton that was for cold weather, and then there was a ripstop cotton for hot weather. The ripstop cotton was much thinner and much cooler. The load-bearing equipment was nylon. Previously, it was all canvas. And then the helmet was made out of Kevlar, which is layered of tightly woven fabric that is designed to stop projectiles from penetration. In the Gulf War, because we weren't quite ready to go to war in the desert, a lot of the troops who originally landed were wearing BDUs. So green, black, and brown doesn't necessarily blend into sand. And so they created a three-color desert uniform. That's the one you see there that the gentleman's wearing. And then later on, they issued a five-color desert uniform to be able to match in with rocks that were on the ground and that kind of stuff. Currently, our service members are wearing multicam, and so you see a soldier in the multicam, and then you see another one with all of the gear. Again, most of the equipment is nylon. The load-bearing stuff is nylon. The helmet has changed. It's no longer a Kevlar. I mean, it's still made out of Kevlar, but it's not the same kind of shaped helmet as what's been in the past. And you notice on the center of the forehead that bracket. That bracket is for mounting night vision and other stuff too. Bloodlines. So as I told you earlier, the current Army Green service uniform, the ASGU, is back in issue. This is the same kind of uniform that was worn by the service members during World War II. And to help the current Army connect to that Army, we have adopted this heritage and this uniform for all professional environments. The Army is still the same Army it was, but this change in uniform is fantastic in my personal opinion. Evolution of weaponry. From flintlocks to machine guns, balloons to tanks, balloons to jets, horses to tanks, our military has continued to advance, and we are one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world. There isn't anything that we can't accomplish because of both the service members that we have and the training and the equipment that they are given. But we need to understand where it all started. So, Manual of Arms Revolutionary Style. All right, so make sure you click on the link that's going to pop up so you can watch what Revolutionary Style Manual of Arms looked like. And when you're done with that, go ahead and continue. And then you can check out what Manual of Arms looked like during the Civil War period of time. And once you've done that, you can come back and you can look at some modern Manual of Arms. These are only 3 of the movements of the 15-count Manual of Arms, and we'll work on the rest of that together, and I will be adding those videos into the drill and ceremony section for you all to review when you want to. Once you've done viewing those, go ahead and continue. and questions. So if you have any questions for the asynchronous students, post those in the comments in the Google Classroom, and make sure that you do the other evolution of the United States uniform, and be sure and post which one was your favorite and why into the comments. Folks, reply to other people. Go in, take a look at their answers and respond with why you thought that was good, or why you didn't think that was good, or why you agreed, or why you disagree, or why you chose yours. But let's actually get into this and get busy working with each other and responding to each other through the comment section. And folks, that concludes the asynchronous lesson for tomorrow. And look forward to seeing you guys on Friday.